Toki yanaleo, miyan kekansan, miwede pana e sona pitoki pona. Hey everyone, I'm Greg Dan3, and today I want to tell you about Toki Pona. Today we are going to go over interjections. That is, when you say something and it just stands on its own, it's not in a sentence. And there are a couple different ways these appear in Toki Pona, but the big thing is they can be used for basically anything. So there's a lot to cover. To get started, let's go over a couple of interjections you're probably already familiar with. First, there's the word a, which is spelled a. That's a pretty surprising outcome right there. A is an emotive particle. That is, it can be used to add any sort of emotion to basically any sort of statement. It stands on its own, which can be used to indicate surprise, like ah, or maybe understanding, like ah, or, being upset, like ah, disappointed maybe. It can do anything you want. Now, in writing, of course, it's a little harder to express all these little details. You'd pick up the differences between each of those that I just described by what's going on around any particular ah. But the critical thing to understand is it does, again, basically anything. In fact, if you group them together, you get laughter. Usually. This is usually laughter. And yes, it does sound like a vampire laughing, like ah, ah, ah. You wouldn't actually say it that way. It's just how you would write laughter. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So as I said, ah stands in for basically anything, and it is a do-all, be-all sort of interjection. But it doesn't mean anything on its own, really, thus terming it a particle. That is, it relies on everything going on around it to gain its own meaning. And honestly, a lot of interjections work that way. If I just say the word sona on its own, well, what would that mean? We know sona. That's it right there. Sona has to do with knowledge or understanding. So if I say it on its own, it could be a statement unto itself, right? You're just saying knowledge for no particular reason. But, excuse me, realistically, this is more like I understand. It's a confirmation of understanding. Again, that idea of context bringing meaning to these things applies to all of the interjections. The difference is specific words, specific content words, give us an idea of what's going on, where ah does anything it wants. But ah is not the only type of interjection we're going to be already familiar with. There are a couple of other ones that will give you a useful understanding of what an interjection is in the first place. For example, let me clear that. Let's say you're asked the question, Sina, Pona, ala, Pona. Sina is you, referring to the listener. Pona is good, positive, pleasant. Ala, not, it negates the previous thing. And then Pona appears again, so we actually know that this whole thing is, this whole thing is a yes or no question. Now, the interjection part of this is how you answer it. If I say, Pona, in the context of this specific question, that means yes. I'm saying, the first sentence is, are you good, or are you okay or not okay? The answer is either good, or no, or more like not good. That is, these are all interjections that answer this original question. And what I'm trying to get across here is what an interjection is in the first place. It is a phrase or individual word even that stands on its own and carries meaning. And again, there are lots of them. This is, of course, one that is grammatically built into Toki Pona, so to speak. But there's another one that's built in, which is very common, in fact. We can use it to get somebody's attention. Let's say we wanted to talk to Yan. I'm going to write this out in Latin alphabet just to make it a little faster. And we'll cartouche that just for convenience sake. The other type of interjection that is built in, so to speak, is this right here. We just have a subject followed by o. So where o is normally used for interjections, for commands or instructions, here, with just a subject before it, it is getting somebody's attention. It is, in a sense, creating a sina, a somebody who is now listening to you. That's grammatical thinking, but the important thing is, this is a statement which stands on its own that, again, gets somebody's attention. So now that we have this framework for what an interjection is, we can ask, what kinds of interjections are there? Well, clearing that, the main type of interjection you'll see around is an individual word that expresses some feeling the speaker has. So let's say we have the sentence, mi, ken, tawa, sike, lon, tenpo, suli. This is mi, ken, tawa, sike, lon, tenpo, suli. Mi is myself, the speaker. Ken is a permission or ability. Here it is a preverb, which means we're primarily talking about some ability. Tawa is movement, motion, any sort of movement or motion. Sike is circular, spiral, like repeating things. Excuse me. And so, tawa sike together is to move in a circle or to spin. Mi ken tawa sike, that part is I am able to move in a circle or I am able to spin. Lon here is a preposition, and we're indicating some kind of context. In this case, a time, because we see tempo next. And then tempo suli. Tempo, of course, like I said, is just time. Suli is large or important. Tempo suli, a large amount of time. So this entire sentence is, I am able to spin for a long time. No interjection there. But then you, the listener, say, wawa mute. Wawa means powerful, strong, confident, energetic, right? And mute means a lot, very much. It emphasizes some prior thing by its amount, let's say. And so wawa mute, very impressive, absolutely amazing. The translation here is, mi kintawa sike lon tempo suli, I'm able to spin for a long time. And you go, wow, that's awesome. Or something to that effect. This, wawa mute, is not a complete sentence. It's an interjection. It stands on its own. You could imagine it a bit like this person saying, ni, li, wawa mute. Ni, li, wawa mute. That is, this is very impressive. This is amazing. But the only part you need is wawa mute. Because again, it stands on its own. It doesn't need to be part of a sentence. You can express how you're feeling with just this part. And this goes for lots of different ways to communicate. So let's say you have another sentence. O lukin e kala ni. O lukin e kala ni. So, o, we have our instruction particle. Lukin, to see or eyes. Here in the verb, it's probably to see. E, we're indicating an object. Kala, a fish or other aquatic creature. And ni, this or that. All together, look at this fish. And if you're somebody who thinks fish are adorable, you might say, Ah, sui. That is, you're basically making a sound indicating your excitement, and then saying, aw, cute, because sui is, of course, sweet, cute, soft, variety of things in that vein. But if you're somebody who doesn't like fish, you might say, ah, yucky, gross, get it away from me. As I said, interjections are able to stand on their own, and in this particular context, what they're telling you is how the speaker feels. And this is a very common use of interjections to quickly express some opinion you have about what is going on, about what's being said, or maybe what you're seeing or experiencing. Okay, so now that we have this idea in mind, what other interjections can exist in this vein? What is there that tells us the thoughts, feelings, etc. of the speaker? Well, we covered one already. Sona, knowledge or understanding, is how you indicate to somebody that you understand what they're saying. And as I noted before, can do a similar job. If you're feeling confused by something or it surprised you, you might say, Nasa. Nasa. That is, oh, strange, oh, weird, unexpected. Excuse me. Let me scroll ahead in my notes. But these are like, oh, I'm hearing an echo. Hopefully that's resolved. So these ones are, as I noted, expressing the opinion of the speaker, but they're doing so in like a value judgment sort of way. What if it were more an observation? Like, Sally, you walk outside, it is 100 billion degrees, you are immediately sweating, and you go, Sally, Ike. And I added on to that, so. Sally Ike, well, Sally is heat, fire, warmth. Ike is bad, unpleasant. Together, Sally Ike, unpleasantly hot, too hot. And of course, a similar idea comes across with Lete. Lete mute, very cold. And you can keep going. Let's say somebody asks you a question, and you're not really sure of the answer. You think something is possible, but you're not confident enough to say it's definitely true. You might say in response, Ken, where Ken is the possibility, probability, the capability of something. Ken is an interjection, is referring to, yeah, maybe, possibly, that could be. You are stating something in terms of your lack of confidence about it. And I want to be clear, this is by no means the limit of what interjections can do. This is a sampler, as it were. And you can use basically any content word to express your feelings, to clarify some thought, to just quickly communicate with somebody else. So it definitely does not stop here, but I will not have time to get to all of them. But there is another class of interjection that I should cover. So give me just a moment. Clear that. All right, so we saw an example of o being used to refer to somebody to get their attention, and we also saw a sentence where o just stood as a normal instruction. But you might be aware of a certain type of sentence, or rather interjection, that looks a lot like o. It looks a lot like an o sentence. If somebody says to you, for example, oh, tawa pona. Well, again, tawa is motion of any sort. It could be leaving or arriving. It could be moving quickly or moving slowly. Any sort of motion. Pona is good. And you'll often hear the interjection tawa pona to tell somebody, go well. Or, as it's meant more appropriately, goodbye. And be well as you go, right? But the thing is, this works a whole lot like the sentence o tawa pona. For most purposes, people consider them interchangeable. These two things, tawa pona and o tawa pona, they're basically the same meaning. In fact, that's very familiar to what I described before, where we took that one sentence, or excuse me, that one interjection, wawamute, and we stuck ni li wawamute before it. Same idea. Mostly what I'm getting at is there are multiple ways to think of these interjections that go beyond them being just a phrase that stands on their own. They are very similar to sentences all on their own. And this class of sentences, I personally call them well wishes, although they don't necessarily have to wish well. Mostly, they all relate back to some o sentence. You'll often see Pona, tawa, sina. Pona is good. Tawa is the preposition in this case, so to or for. Sina is you, so you're being spoken to, the listener. Pona tawa sina is literally good to you or good for you, but the most common use of it is as a thank you. I will note that it's not limited to these things. These are just common ways to get at these ideas of a goodbye and a thank you, but you'll see lots of different variations of them that aren't necessarily interjections. These are examples, not the end-all, be-all, as it were. But continuing with this well-wish idea, nothing really stops us from tacking on basically any verb we want in this form. So if we're welcoming somebody, we might say kama pona. So I mentioned that tawa before could be arrival, but it's really more the process of arrival because kama is arrival itself. I should clarify that better. Tawa is about the motion. Kama is about the arrival. That's a better way of putting it. Anyway, kama pona, arrive good. This is a way to welcome somebody. Or maybe musipona. Musi is fun or entertainment, so musipona, have a good game, have fun, play well. Excuse me. I myself have jokingly said, molipona. Moli is death, death and dying. So molipona, the literal would be die well, but it's mostly used in reference to beating somebody in a video game, at least in my personal usage, because you kill somebody in the game, molipona, it's poking fun. This example I'm throwing out mostly to show the variety that interjections are capable of. Their literal reading, in this case, molipona, isn't necessarily the same as the meaning the speaker imparts on them. And that idea goes way beyond interjections, because it's just a matter of how people use language in the first place. You can't always rely on the literal meanings of the words, even in Toki Pona, which generally benefits from being quite literal. But, again, getting ahead of myself, that's an idea to keep in your mind while we continue. Okay. So now I've covered all that. What else can you use interjections for? It turns out we've basically covered everything. We have Here, I'll quickly write out everything. We have and its wide versatility. We have Answers to questions. We have getting somebody's attention. We have individual words or short phrases expressing the values or feelings of the speaker. And we have well wishes. Again, my terminology for them, not the only one you could use. I'm sure you could come up with another type of interjection if you really dug into it, but offhand, I do believe this is basically everything. So the remainder of this lesson is going to be digging into primarily this category. I think the rest all speak for themselves one way or another, and if they don't, the next best thing you can do is get experience with them. So I do recommend, going out there, exploring, conversing, etc. But this category here, where it's just a word, that one actually bears some exploration because it is very, very broad. So now we have lots of examples to go through. Let me clear that. Let's say we have Mama, mi, li, Pona, e, Toki, mi, tawa, yan, ante. Subject, mama, mi, my parent, my guardian. Li, we're introducing the verb. Pana, to give or emit. E, an object. Toki, me, my container, my bag or my box. Tawa, the preposition to or for. Yan, ante, a different person, somebody else. If we imagine that we're saying this, the translation here altogether is my dad gave my bag away to somebody else. Maybe they donated it, for example. You might say it at this moment. Pakala. Or, excuse me. Ikesuli. Both of these are getting at the same idea. This, up here, my dad donated my bag, gave it to somebody else. And maybe you really liked that bag. Maybe you loved it. You'd had it for years, and it was yours, and now it's gone. And you don't like that. Pakala. Ikesuli. You're expressing your feelings with these interjections. It's worth quickly noting, pakala here is occasionally touted as the closest thing Toki Pona has to a swear. I'll quickly note that yes, but actually no, because Toki Pona doesn't have anything resembling swears or curse words at all. Pakala is, however, the closest translation for a fair number of them. Like, if you're frustrated, if you stub your toe, you might go, pakala, as you jump up and down, getting your foot off the ground, right? Or, in this situation, where you've lost something that was dear to you, you're frustrated, you're upset, you go, pakala. Again, there's that variety, that breadth each word is capable of. Somebody drawing in the audience just pointed out, this isn't an interjection, but it is something else you could do in the vein of a swear, and I'll throw it in because it's amusing. If you were really upset with your parent in this situation, you might say to them, O anpa. O is our instruction. Anpa is down or below. It's also be defeated or be humble or something to that effect. The translation is not very literal here, basically, but this is another thing in the vein of those, how you can be, it's a close approximation of showing your frustration with somebody, how you might do with a swear. How to translate that? Gosh, I'm actually not sure. At least, I'm not sure without using a swear, which I'd rather not do in this moment. But I'm getting off base. We get the idea here with this sentence. You lost something that was near and dear to you. You show your frustration. Pakala, ike suli, big bad. Clear that. And let's do another one. So let's say you and a friend are talking about your plans for the summer. And you're talking about going to, I don't know, a particular reserve, like a park. You might say, or let's say they might say, Pilin mi la ma kasi ni li Pona nanpawan. Pilin, emotions or feelings. They can be physical or they can be emotive. You can also talk about your opinion. Pilin me, so my feeling. La, we're indicating some context for the following sentence. So pilin me is context for everything that follows. Ma, a place, location, also earth or dirt. Kasi, any sort of plant. So ma kasi, a plant location. This could be a forest, it could be a garden, it could be an entire nature reserve. Any sort of things could be ma kasi. But in the context that I've given, where we're talking explicitly about going to some sort of park or nature reserve, it's one of those. So ma kasi ni, this specific ma kasi, li, pona, nanpawan. Nanpa refers to numbers, but here, with the number following it, it is an ordinal. That is, we're talking about some ranking. Although, it gets even more complex than that, because this entire phrase, Pona nanpawan, it's not quite literally the first in goodness so much as it is more like the most good. It's like a personal favorite. It's number one, all the way back here, to you, to your feeling, or my feeling in this case. So altogether, Pilin mila, in my opinion, makasi ni, this park, li Ponanampawan, is the best. It's the most good. And to all of this, you might say, sama. Sama is to do with sameness, similarity, things being similar to basically any degree. So you take this entire sentence and your response to it is sama. That would mean, oh, same. Like, I feel the same way. My opinion is the same. An equivalent sentence would probably be mi pilin sama. So again, there's that versatility. We don't need to throw in every little detail you might have in a sentence to an interjection. An individual word or short phrase can stand for more complex ideas. Like, you could, in your response to this sentence, restate most of the same information. You could say, like, mikin la makasi ni li Ponanampawan. But for the most part, you don't really want to express all the same information over again. Not because it's unwarranted necessarily, it's mostly just not necessary. I think I just contradicted myself there. It's not that it wouldn't be appropriate. You can do it. It's that it's more pleasant, it's more useful to a conversation to be brief. And so interjections like sama here do a lot of work to make these conversations flow better, to make things more easily understood. You're conveying a lot of information that you agree with this entire statement with just one word. All right, let me do one more example. Clear that. All right, let's say we have Pona li Toki lon tenpo suli la ken Toki ona li kama lili. So, ona li toki lon tenpo suli la ken toki ona li kama lili. So the context here is you and a friend have gone to see somebody giving a speech, and you already know that they've been giving speeches for a long time, that they've been, I don't know, on the trail, talking for a long time, and it's starting to show in their voice. And so you make this comment to your friend. Ona li toki lon tenpo suli. They have been speaking for a long time. La ken toki ona li kama lili. Here, let me go word by word, just to make it a little more consistent. Ona, we're referring to a third person. He, she, they, it. Li, we introduce a verb. Toki, to speak or communicate. Lon is a preposition here, so some location or time. Tenpo suli, a large amount of time. La, the entire prior sentence, is context for what follows. Ken toki ona. So ken is the ability or permission. In this case, it's an ability primarily. Toki, again, speech or communication. Ona, so it's ken toki ona. It's the ability, like their ability to speak. Li again, but for a new sentence, all the way up here. Kama, so here it is a preverb. Kama comes before a verb. It changes it, or it refers to something changing. Kama lili, to become small. So altogether, they have been speaking for a long time, so their ability to speak has become small. And you hear that, and you're in agreement, but it wouldn't necessarily make sense to say sama, because this is less so an opinion and more so an observation. And so to this you might say lon. Lon, so we saw it a couple times as a preposition throughout this, but as a general content word, it refers to truth and to existence. So lon here as an interjection is like saying true. That's a fact. So we had this observation. Somebody's been speaking for a long time, so their voices may be kind of hoarse, and they're having trouble speaking. You think that observation is true, so you indicate that by saying lon. And that's all I have for this lesson. That's the rundown on interjections. There is a whole lot I can't really cover in a short lesson. There's a whole lot that interjections are capable of. So what I recommend above basically anything else is experiment. Spend the time to figure out what other people understand, what other people are doing, listen and learn. All right, and I'll take about 2 minutes for questions. So, are there any questions? Yes, no, maybe. All right. Well, if there are no questions, then we are good to go. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Have a good one.